Welp, I've learned very much the hard way that my hair doesn't like being slicked back, so that's something we're not going to try again. The Wild West of a noun is often a term used to describe when a said noun is in a period of lawlessness. This, more often than not, is used in reference to the very beginning of a noun's existence. For example, the Wild West of the internet was the early days of the internet, especially the early 2000s and early days of YouTube. However, the Wild West period of a noun need not take place at its beginning chronologically. For example, the American Wild West was actually in the latter half of the 19th century, when America was already a pretty well established power, not really a new nation anymore. It certainly was not its beginnings. The Wild West of video games could be ascribed to many moments in time. However, personally, I would argue it's with this guy. Wait, no, the older one. Yeah, that one. This guy. This guy's games were really weird. It seems that Nintendo's excitement over this next-gen 480p powerhouse of a console, they would license quite literally anything that came across their desk. I know the GameCube had its fair share of odd entries, but it really seems like by the time they got to the Wii, Nintendo would just license anything that anyone would create. Like, they'd just say yes. In many ways, Wii games were essentially Nintendo's Steam. This led to many rip-off titles and all-around poorly designed and thought-out games. Alternatively, it also wasn't hard to find rebranded versions of games that, were basically just reskinned and made even worse. No better is this scene than in the rip-off Racing Game, which blatantly stole from a similar title, released a few months before, but rebranded with a well-known company, a beloved franchise even. I'm of course talking about Mario Kart Wii, having of course stolen from the 2007 gem of a game, M&M Kart Racing, the subject of this video. In general, the game has the same controls as that of Mario Kart Wii, again because Mario Kart stole most of its game design from M&M Kart Racing. However, the screen they use to explain the mechanics is really confusing, causing me and many of my friends who have played this to just be extremely confused by how exactly you drive the karts. It's really simple. It's just Mario Kart rules. You just kind of swerve the remote as if it was a wheel. Not whatever this screen is trying to say to do. However, learning how to steal is only about half the battle when it comes to driving. The only way I can describe the handling of these karts is if you've ever driven actual go-karts on like a really soggy day, and there's just like no traction whatsoever. This causes a frustrating experience where you are having to constantly swerve about the map instead of being able to easily maintain a semi-straight line course. This also results in basically anything resembling a sharp turn being extremely unpredictable. The often failures at taking a sharp turn will, due to other features, often result in being stuck or wedged somewhere. Not due to the player's inability. Well, it is kind of user error, but more importantly, the game has been designed around a system where nothing short of slashing your speed leads to reliable sharp turns. I hear you yelling now about, oh, that's how it works in the real world. No, it's not. Because one, I'm not talking about the real world, I'm talking about a racing game. Two, it's not like the real world, because in the real world you need to slow down when you're taking a sharp turn, just enough so that you don't spin out, and then you can slam on the accelerator when you get out of the turn. In M&M Kart Racing, you slow to like 20 miles per hour and then slowly accelerate out. Three, none of this would even be an issue if you could just drift, which as far as I can tell, you can't. If you could just drift, every problem would be solved. You could take sharp turns and not have to kill your speed and start driving like a grandma who's early for church on a Tuesday morning. And even if this were done to make the game more realistic, which I don't think it was, I think it was just incompetence, it's still bad game design. The developers did not need to make maps which are almost purely just sharp turns, which they did several times. About those before mentioned issues that make the player get wedged, the primary reason is just how zoomed in the camera is. The developers managed to find the perfect spot of zoom, where it seems like you should be able to see what's up ahead, but just can't. In something like the off-brand Mario version, the camera angle is in such a way that you can see what's coming up and plan your course ahead of time. You cannot do this in M&M kart racing due to the dual terrors of a poor camera angle as well as poor map design. Because of the sharp turns and the fact that there just is a lot of stuff sticking out of the sides of maps, so like the walls, you can't go anywhere near the walls because there will probably be something next to them that makes you, crash. It's awful. I would not call the things you race on tracks or maps or anything really. They are, for all intents and purposes, a series of sharp turns vaguely consolidated into a racing track. And none of the maps are consistent. One moment you're in historic downtown, the next you're on the farm looking for Dr. Phil. Look out, you're in a child's bedroom. And now you're like in a factory, I guess? But don't look now, you've been abducted by aliens. That's right, aliens are canon in the M&M universe. What are you gonna do about it? I know that Mario Kart isn't exactly super consistent with their map designs, but at the very least you can tell they all exist within the same universe. If Mario Kart maps are like a Spotify playlist, M&M Kart racing maps are like whenever you have a playlist and you hit random and shuffle, and then Spotify throws in random songs that have absolutely nothing to do with what you're just listening to. It's like that. I don't know, man. It's just very strange that there's absolutely no consistency. While driving around, you're probably going to notice a few things. Firstly, you'll be picking up coins. You're forced to notice this because of the giant message that pops up every single time you pick up a coin. Roughly an eighth of your already pixelated screen will be completely covered by a notification telling you that you've picked up a chocolate coin. Wait, what? Yeah, so this would be like if in Mario Kart you could pick up fleshy organs because in M&M Kart racing, you are just chocolate covered in a thin layer of, I don't know actually. Plastic? Let's go with plastic. Speaking of characters found in the game, they're strange. Of course you have the standard M&Ms, including a special someone. But if you play the game and manage not to be distracted by that delicious footwear, you will notice there's just a random bug and fox racing with you. There's this fox and this cricket, which are just omnipresent racers, and I don't know why. You can't choose them in the character selection, nor is there a lag of M&Ms that would necessitate the creation of new characters. There's enough M&M mascots to fill out these races, but for some reason, they just kinda don't. Also, why would they use bugs instead of humans? I thought it was pretty well established in M&M lore that the M&M world is just like the human world, except there's roughly a dozen cannibalistic abominations of nature running around in, thin plastic layers with chocolate underneath. I phrased that incredibly strangely. So, when did bugs gain sentience? Not to question M&M lore or anything, of course, but this was a pretty major retcon if you ask me. Also, I don't know why Red M&M is wearing that hat. Is it culturally insensitive? Probably not. Is it confusing? Yes. So confusing. Why are they doing this? Also, this game is stupid easy. Once you've moved past the poorly explained controls, there will be no challenge in this game, save for maybe poor map design. Now, to be fair, I did play most of this game on easy, as I suspected I'd never learn how to play the game. But after nearly lapping an enemy combatant, I decided that it was time to move to hard, where I proceeded to again race unchallenged, and getting myself constantly stuck seemed to have no effect on the outcome. So I'm starting to think the AI is just bad. Doesn't help they all seem intent upon going about 20 miles per hour. I mean, I know it looks like our character is only hitting about 30, but trust the game, this is what 220 miles per hour looks like. I did lose once, I think, but that was mostly due to stupid map more than anything, to be honest. Also, strangely enough, once you finish a race, your cart just keeps going for a bit and stops. And then the camera just kind of zooms in, you can still just kind of look around indefinitely. Also, I'm 40% convinced the car is just a PNG poorly laid over the game world. I'm pretty sure it's not, but How static it is when it moves and the FPS it runs at really makes it look like it. Probably not, but still, it's funny. Speaking of the cart, may I ask why there are eyebrows here? And why exactly they're not, on the eyebrow location? I guess they are there to show the emotion of your driver, but I don't know why you would need to know that, or why you would want to know that, or how it would help you by knowing that. It's very confusing. Another baffling design choice is that when you've picked up coffee, your cart just starts kind of like headbanging. I guess like body banging. This is what headbanging looks like. The coffee icon on the track is so small, I genuinely could not tell that that's what was making me jump up and down for the majority of my playtime in this game. So it was just annoying. And it speeds you up a bunch and makes the handling even worse. And it's, do not pick up the coffee. The coffee is bad. Also, that's not how coffee works. Please do not put coffee in your engines. It will not make you go faster. Coffees are made from beans, and so is chocolate. So the implication is that M&Ms are using like their distant cousins as a fuel source. Are we okay with that? I feel like they can't do that. I think that should be illegal. While recording, I thankfully had this game muted, so I wasn't cursed with the knowledge of what it sounded like fully. I've heard the game before, of course, but I always forget about it because it's traumatic. The best way I can describe the audio in this game is if somebody had a soundboard attached to speakers, which was 40 miles away from their mic, which was also just a tin can. And yeah, that'd be about what the audio in this game sounds like. Also, the voice lines for this game are just strange, and they're kind of gross.
Now that's fast.
And each character has like about 3 of them.
I melt for no one.
What does she mean she melts for no one? Like, if she melts, I must assume her outer casing would also melt away, right? And from what I remember of M&M lore, that's basically their clothes. So we must assume that she meant she won't remove her outer casing for anyone? Gross. Ew. Stop it. Also, then when she says that you are all too sticky for me, she would mean that they're all melting too much for her? Which is weird.
You're all too sticky for me.
Maybe she means they're like sticking to the ground because they're melting so bad. So they're slow. That might be what she's referring to, but that's still weird. Imagine you're just driving one of the enemy racers is just like, haha, you're bleeding so much your blood is congealing to the bottom of your tires and you can't go fast. What a loser! It's really just not a very comfortable experience. I'm starting to suspect I know which game Tucker Carlson is going to be playing while on unemployment.
So the green M&M lost her sexy boot.
The male M&Ms have this amazing voice line where they shout, "Approaching sound barriers!" Now, the cart is approaching about 250 miles per hour. The sound barrier is over 700. Yep, I see no issue here. That's how speed works. Also, it seems that all of the male M&Ms have the same generic voice lines with each other.
Look, a nut!
So, the only one without generic voice lines, like
Approaching the sound barrier!
is green M&M. It's very strange. I don't know why they chose to do this. I've also found that the constant repetitive voice lines makes it even more unnerving when they just stop talking. He's right there not talking, isn't he? Also, the screeching sound that the game makes whenever you crash is just a little too long. So sometimes you'll have driven away from a crash, but the sound clip hasn't finished yet, so it will just keep playing as you're driving off. Brilliant game design, I love it. Whenever you crash, you will usually have to turn around. However, you can't back up in this game, so you're forced to physically turn around. Yes, I know I'm going the wrong way, game. I can't go anywhere else because of your game design. Idiot. This is a bit strange because you can't just rotate a car by moving the wheels. You also have to, apply a force. That's how physics works. So I don't know what's making it turn. Another strange audio choice was that the countdown for the race to start is purely audible.
Start your engine!
Ready? Set. Go!
There's no visual countdown, so if you're playing the game muted or just, are deaf, frick you, I guess, because you don't get to know when the race is about to start. Massive L. M&M Kart Racing is a fun game to play with friends. But, is it a good game? Absolutely not! M&M Kart Racing is a perfect example of a poor corporate game. First off, racing has nothing to do with M&Ms. It would be like if KFC came up with a dating simulator. Oh, wait! The difference between these two games is, well, honestly, a lot of things, but one important thing. You can tell the KFC game had some passion behind the project. And also in the project, presumably. You can really tell when corporations make something purely because they're like, hey kids, you wanna buy our product? I won't deny that the Corporal Sanders dating simulation wasn't that, because it totally was. But you can tell just by the fact that they're allowing their, brand to be like silly, absurd, and a bit fun. You can tell that somebody making it wanted to make this project and had some passion behind it, whether or not that was just because they thought it would be funny or they wanted to make a good game. I don't think they're trying to make a good game, but you can tell people cared about this game. Another really good example of this is Lego games. They are all essentially the exact same game, but reskinned and rebranded. But you can tell that the people working with them absolutely love making them, and they're hilarious and great and genuinely some of the best gaming experiences you can consistently get. You can tell in every fiber of them that there was love and tear and sweat poured into them. Just because they're just rebranded skins of each other doesn't mean there isn't passion behind making Lego games. The complete opposite is true with M&M Kart Racing. It's just soulless, devoid of love. And despite coming out before Mario Kart Wii, it feels unoriginal and uninspired. Also, you might think that the credits over here, I'm looping them. I'm not looping them, by the way. For whatever reason, the game decides to loop them themselves instead of kicking you out of the credit scene. They'll just let you stay on the credits and they'll just keep repeating for all eternity. Don't know why they did that. Very strange decision. But to be fair, I do think we need to give the game some kudos. I mean, it inspired an entire genre of Wii racing games, and many of them are quite good and brilliant, and I love them. I mean, just look at Mario Kart Wii's title. Where do you think they learned to spell kart from?